All right. Good evening, YouTube. We are live. And I've posted the link if you want to join in. Please feel free. Let me just turn off some of my notifications here. So I do have a few things I want to talk about. So even if we don't get any participation on the open mic night, I do have a couple of things I want to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is the Beirut bombing. That was 38 years ago. 23rd of October, 1983. And I remember that day well. Now, you have to realize, long before we had social media, and you got all your news from the newspapers and those types of things, I was actually on my way to battalion headquarters at Fort Bragg, 82nd Airborne. I was going for my E5 promotion board. For those of you that don't know or are not very familiar with the Army ways, to go from E4 to E5 or sergeant, you have a promotion board and you are scored on that board. And the scores from that board go forward, and then you come out on a points list, and that's how you get promoted. I had a little step up on most people because I was in the 82nd. I was airborne. I got an extra 50 points toward my promotion. And I got promoted, as soon as the board was concluded and that paperwork went forward. But on my way in, I found out about the bombing in Beirut, the barracks that were bombed. And that was 38 years ago. There were 241 members of the United States Armed Forces. 220 were Marines, 18 Navy sailors, 3 Army soldiers, along with 58 French peacekeepers and 3 civilians, all perished in that bombing. And it was pretty horrific. And if you look at the time frame, that was 3 days before we deployed on a rescue mission to the island of Grenada. So there was a lot going on in October. And I just wanted to throw that out there, take a minute and think about those that gave their lives for our country in Beirut that were at the barracks that day. I don't want to tarnish that, but the Beirut bombing, a lot of these stolen valor clowns use that. Oh, I was there. I got PTSD because of this, that, and the other thing. And no. Oh, let's see who we got. Here we go. Yep. Thanks, James. Combat mechanic. All the way, brother. Commentator auditor. Good evening and hello, sir. Like I said, I'll keep posting up the link if anybody wants to join in. And like I said, if I don't get anybody joining in, I'm going to try and keep this military base tonight. I did want to talk about that. And it sticks in my mind because I heard about it, right at that day, that morning. I was on my way to a promotion board, and you stand in front of a promotion board, or you sit in front of a promotion board after you do all of your facing movements, and they check your uniform because you go in your dress uniform. And one of the sergeant majors that sits on the board asked me about current events, and nobody on the board had even heard about the bombing in Beirut. And it was the look on their face when I started talking about it. And I had very little information because it had just come out. We had known that there was a bombing. We knew there were Marines that were killed at the barracks. And I've got, 2 or 3 sergeant majors, and 3 or 4 first sergeants sitting there all staring at me with their eyes wide open as I'm trying to inform them as to what was going on. And of course, then they asked me, well, how do you know about this? I said, well, I got the newspaper on the way in this morning, and it was right there on the front page. So they're all looking at each other like, wow, we came unprepared for this guy to come to the board. So needless to say, after I did my current affairs, the rest of the questions, they were like softball questions. And they were like, yeah, I got nothing for this guy. Thank you. Have a nice day. And I think I got promoted in December. So it was pretty quick after that. I made my Sergeant E5. And we had 3 days after that, we were on lockdown, rapid deployment force going to Grenada, C-141s to Barbados, C-130s Barbados into Grenada, 325th Infantry. As a matter of fact, I caught a guy running around with a mustard stain on his jump wings, which means he had a combat jump. And yeah, he wasn't there. He was with some support company. And I called him out on that. Needless to say, he wasn't wearing that mustard stain anymore. And that was when I was still in the military. Some of these guys, I don't know. So we've got, let's see, Jerry, welcome. USMC active duty. Very good. Remember Beirut, my brother? Master Sergeant Edward C., U.S. Air Force retired. Thank you for tuning in. All right. Other things I wanted to talk about. I just did a thing on the VA fraud. Yeah, VA fraud. That just hit the papers as $1 million worth of money blown down the tube that I don't think the VA will ever get back. And this is not the first one. And I mean, it takes the VA so long to catch on to some of this BS that's going on and to catch these guys. And by the time they do catch them, it's too late. Yep, the guy's going to do time in prison. But he's been living high on the hog, getting that money every month. And it takes years. And I've got another one I want to talk about that popped up in Army Times, and it's from August of 2020. So it's a little bit dated, but they do catch these guys, and it may take some time. Just trying to keep up with the chat. If anybody's got a topic you want to talk about, by all means, bring it in. Otherwise, I'm going to roll on with this this VA fraud stuff. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some stolen valor. Some of the guys on that do stolen valor videos on YouTube that are just ridiculous, but we'll get to that. But let's talk about the VA fraud stuff. This one was from August 19th of 2020. And let me just bring it up here. I can bring up the web page real quick. And so Army veteran gets 12 months prison time for stolen valor. Now, 12 months for stolen valor doesn't seem like much, but that's what's allowed with the Stolen Valor Act. I think it's 12 months and $1,000 fine, but they may have to pay restitution. And in this article, he basically lied about receiving a Purple Heart and a Silver Star. Now, who else lied about having a Purple Heart and a Silver Star? That was obvious on the uniform that they used to wear. Oh, yeah, our boy Jeremy Dewitt. He had a Silver Star and a Purple Heart on that fake Special Forces Major Green Beret uniform he was wearing. So this guy got 12 months. His name was Greg Ramsdell, 61 years old, of Columbus, Georgia. He also received 3 years of supervised release and was ordered by the court to repay $76,000 to the Department of Veterans Affairs. Do you think they're ever going to see that money? I hope so, but it's doubtful. He pled guilty in December, lying about serving in Afghanistan between 2008 and 2009. He also admitted to falsely claiming to have suffered post-traumatic stress disorder when he applied for disability payments through the VA in 2014. 2014 is when he was honorably discharged. Didn't say whether it was active duty. I think he was in the Guard at the time. And some of his stories, he saw men and women and children being executed and women holding babies while they blew themselves up, and, getting stuff blown all over his uniform. Yeah, none of that happened. And basically he said he was unable to live a normal life after seeing all of that. But he was not in Afghanistan during the years he claimed, according to the VA and FBI investigators. And he was a violation of the Stolen Valor Act because he used a Silver Star, Purple Heart in order to claim money, employment, property, or other tangible benefits. He also received a job at Fort Benning, a government job, due to these claims. He did serve in various Army components, National Guard and the Reserve, starting off in 81, honorably discharged in 2014. The VA gave him PTSD benefits retroactive to 2014. He received that in 2017. And also he got the job at Fort Benning. Silver Star, a third highest military award for valor in combat, and also the Purple Heart for anyone who was wounded or killed in battle. This message, and it sends a clear message, but it doesn't, because these guys continue to do it. These guys continue with their bullshit stories, forged paperwork, and all this other crap, and go to the VA. And I guess, and maybe, you really can't blame the VA completely. The VA really got beat up bad in the mid-2000s, 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, in that time frame, about being so behind on claims. I mean, we had guys coming back missing limbs, severely wounded and injured people coming back, and it was taking them up to 2 years to get any type of benefits. And I mean, they were really getting beat up bad. Yeah, and you're right, Jerry. A lot of people do believe that it's not that it was repealed, but it was replaced with a lesser act. Doesn't have as much teeth to it, and it really makes it hard to prove it. As in with Jeremy Dewitt, I tried to get people involved with that, but nobody wanted to do the footwork. Nobody wanted to go to any of his clients and find out if he had only received the contract to work for them due to his military claims. And nobody really wanted to do that. I couldn't get anybody involved. I couldn't get the DA's office involved. I called the even the government, the FBI. They didn't want nothing to do with it, which, it's not the crime of the season or the crime of the year. So, they're looking for bigger fish. Nobody wants to really get involved with that. Good evening, Gia, Max Powers. Good evening, Chris. Anybody else I'm missing? No, I think I'm keeping up with everybody. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And hey, here's the link. If you want to join in and have a conversation about almost anything, it doesn't matter. We can change subjects very easily. Now, this PTSD thing that he talks about here, and I'm going to tread really lightly on this. I posted a link in my community on the channel, and it's a really good article that's written. And, you know, as I read through it, and then I read the comments, the guy gets bashed pretty hard in the comments about it. However, PTSD has got the largest amount of fraudulent claims through the VA. In the civilian world, your paramedics, your medics, firefighters, police officers, they see much more traumatic events than about 90% of the people that are getting benefits for PTSD. They see it all the time. PTSD is a treatable syndrome, I guess. Some counseling and things like that. But I mean, if you do a lot of research on it, it is treatable. And there are guys out there that have life debilitating PTSD. There's no doubt. They had been involved in it and in the middle of it so much that they can't get past it. But there's also a lot of guys out there that are just looking for a paycheck from the VA. Oh, unclean hands, welcome. So that's a little bit about the VA stuff I wanted to talk about. There are so many fraudulent VA claims. And if you do a little searching and a little research on the internet, you can find a lot of these. Aircraft maintainers, communications, etc. Come on in, Jerry. Click the link. Join me. More than happy to yak. I actually did time in aviation. Oh, we got Edward coming in. Good evening, Edward. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, bro, I can hear you great.
Awesome. Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear as well.
Oh, I'm going to have to hear your echo.
If you have the YouTube channel up in the background, that'll cause a little bit of an issue.
I'm going to have to change that avatar. That was from Marvel. Am I causing you an issue? Because I can deal with it.
Nope, I'm hearing you loud and clear. No issues at all.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know you were going to throw that live.
Hey, that's why I call it live mic night. And this is only the second one. So I'm glad to get some participation. But if this continues to get some interest, I'm going to keep doing it. I'll do it weekly. But I had a few things I wanted to talk about, and I was really hoping somebody would jump in and we can have a discussion about whatever. It doesn't matter.
Me and you. I kind of like where you were going with Dewitt. Strangely popular videos online. I ran across it. I wasn't trying to see it.
I don't think anybody tries to see that.
No, honestly, I wasn't searching for anything close to what I seen, but it's like up near 5 to 6 million views. The way he's been swerving in and out of lanes and poor kid.
Yeah.
He's made some huge mistakes. Terrible.
Yeah. Well, his mistakes all started back when he was 18 years old and he impersonated a police officer. That's when he caught
felony sexual. He's a sexual offender, but it's not. I don't know what. He's listed as a sexual offender, I believe.
Yeah, he had sexual relations with a 15-year-old friend of the family.
Oh, geez. And the specifics, I think, were battery or something.
Yeah,
sexual battery. Like,
yep, that's how they usually list those.
That's terrible. Him even near anybody with any sort of authority, they should be looking at him in a different light. He shouldn't be driving anything with flashing anything.
You are 100% correct. Well, he's in jail for a while now, so
yeah, daytime driving for him.
And it's amazing how much he got away with. He had 20 some odd felonies that he ended up with 18 months, which that's crazy. But yeah, it is Florida.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yep, Florida's always good for good content because we have seems to be a lot of unusual people living in Florida.
We import them.
Well, I guess it makes it entertaining.
Yeah. Well, I apologize. I didn't know that I was going to come in here and have to talk. I was jumping in thinking there'd be like 19 people in here.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. I appreciate you jumping in. Yeah, Max is talking about, I knew Commander Dewitt when he was a Delta Force Ranger SEAL involved with the airborne submarine squadrons. These guys just they just love it. And there's some other channels out there that are still trying to keep riding the wave on him with just rehashing old stuff, and there is some new stuff coming out, but it's all from the past. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. Yeah, she is like, watch court cam. Most cases are from Florida. Yes, it is. It's a gold mine. There's no doubt. And we got Angry Cat.
I know we have some eloquent senior NCOs chatting with us. I'm going to buy a couple mics, get a couple chiefs in here.
Yep.
Good stuff. I'll shut up. I'm going to shut up. I'll mute my mic.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Angry Cat's like, oh, geez, I came in and you guys were talking about DeWitt again. Yeah, for some reason that he's like a bad penny. He just keeps turning up. But if you go back earlier, you'll see where I talked about some VA fraud. Of course, the Beirut remembrance from 38 years ago for the bombing. So I do have some military content in there. And I'm going to try and stick more with some of my military stuff, just because I've been kind of cruising YouTube in its own little universe, and I've been watching some of these guys that are talking. Now there's one guy out there who does none of his own work. He just comments on other people's videos on stolen valor. I think he did one term in the Marine Corps. And he gets it wrong about 90% of the time when he talks about the way the military is, which I just can't watch him anymore. And there's several of those channels. And I try and keep my stuff on point, correct, the best I can anyway. Let's see. Yeah, there is a civil lawsuit that was filed on Jeremy. All that stuff's going to catch up with him. And I'm really surprised on the insurance fraud thing, why there were no criminal charges filed. There should have been. Hey, brother, you served. That's all that matters, Angry Cat. Combat Medic, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, Angry Cat's jumping in here.
Hi. I have to admire your hairstyle, Sarge. I'm working on it, but from the top down.
Yeah, I started shaving my head years ago. Believe it or not, if I grow my hair out, there is some on top.
Yeah.
But it's just too easy to drag a razor over it and be done with it.
But see, that's the difference. It looks good on you.
Oh,
On me, I'm just, hey, I'm an
I
old
shaved
hippie.
my head. I
you know,
look like an
like I
alien.
said. I'm an old hippie, but the thing that I love the work that you do. I mean, between your channel and Don Shipley's, I think you do fantastic work. And rooting out all these pretenders.
yeah,
And I've mentioned it on your channel in previous, things that you posted, that it doesn't make a difference what you did in the military. You had to do something. Everybody had a job.
exactly.
We couldn't all be Green Berets. We couldn't all be Navy SEALs. There's not enough slots.
Exactly.
I was a reenlistment NCO for 5.5 years. And the only jobs that people seemed to want was they wanted to be an air traffic controller, or they wanted to be a chopper pilot. And I had one guy he actually tried out for Ranger School, and we took him to this pool. And you have to be all dressed up in your fatigues with the boots, the whole bit, and you have to swim a certain amount of distance in order to qualify. And he was in pretty good shape. He was in very, very good shape. And he hopped in that pool. He went down to the bottom, like within 3-4 feet. And he got up, we let him kind of dry out, get some of the water wrung out, give him another shot. He did it a few times. And, he says, it's a lot harder than what I thought it was. And that gave me more respect for the people who actually are doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
yeah, I had the pleasure of spending almost 6 years at Fort Bragg, and we lived off post. So I had neighbors that did just about everything. I had commo guys over here. My buddy Kim next door, he was in 5th Group Special Forces. He was a Q course guy. I had another friend of mine that was in 325 Infantry who actually, right after we met him, he disappeared for a while, and I found out later that he had gone to the Delta selection and actually got selected. So he went through that. George, and I'm still in contact with George on Facebook to this day. Great guy.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was in school. I had gone to Fort Eustis to a school. My wife came up to visit me because her family was there in the Portsmouth area. And when she got home, our front door had been kicked in on the house. And the first place she went was over to George's house. And basically, George and a couple of his buddies with automatic weapons came over and cleared the house to make sure everything was good to go. So it's good having neighbors like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So, I've lived in, government housing. I've lived off base and all this. And, I tell you, it's some great people. I mean, that's the ones I miss. And, the thing that really annoyed me, I spent 11.5 years. I was a Morse operator before I was an 05H. And then I went over to the 79 Delta, the reenlistment school. Loved the job. What messed it up for me, I would probably done the full 20 had they not started playing around with it. There were two different things. You had reenlistment, the 79Ds, and then you had the 00 Echoes, the recruiters. And I knew people who were recruiters, and they said, if you get assigned to a big city, you're set. Because there's plenty of people coming in, checking out what you got to offer, and it's fantastic. You'll always meet your objective. Not a quota, it's an objective. And in 82, they came up with this brilliant idea where they were going to merge both recruiting and reenlistment into one job. It was going to be a 00R, retention NCO, and recruiting/retention NCO. And I knew where this was going. There were a lot of other people who decided they'd had enough because of that. Here's what was going to happen. All of us reenlistment people were going to be pushed over into recruiting, and they were going to use reenlistment as that carrot on the stick. The high achievers, they were going to go over to reenlistment, and the rest of us, forget it. And a friend of mine said, look, I was assigned to one of the worst places you could ever expect to be assigned. Newton, Iowa. A lot of farms there, a lot of agricultural activity there. Great people. But the problem is, if you are able to talk to, some kid who comes in and he's ready to go, he goes home, dad's going to more likely say, look, here, sit down, son. Here, sit down. Yeah, right there. Here's what I'm going to do. If you stay on the farm, I'm going to buy you this $100,000 tractor. It's got air conditioning, got that sound system you always wanted. It's going to be really nice. It's going to do most of the work for you. How are you going to compete with that? You're not. You can't. And that was the hardest problem with people assigned to those rural areas. Good people, but they had much more incentive to stay home.
Stay where they're at. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a job I really wouldn't have wanted. Being a recruiter, that's tough. And I think it's going to get even tougher. Well, I mean, things have changed so much, and it changed even during my period. I mean, when I first joined, it's like, yeah, do 20, get your retirement. You're going to have, medical for the rest of your life. Everything's free. And no, by the time I retired, now I have to pay for my medical, but it's not much. I mean, it's less than what most people pay a month. Actually,
When did you go in, Sarge?
I went in September 1978.
Oh, okay.
And I had a break. Well, I didn't have a break in service. I actually went in a reserve after the first Gulf. And I stayed in the reserve almost 10 years. Jumped from the reserve to the Guard, and then I was able to go back active. And I snapped at the first chance I got to go back active. And I managed to finish out my last 6 years and a couple of months on active. So I got my full retirement. But the best part about the whole thing, all that reserve time, it all counted for pay. So, as long as you got an ID card, it counts for pay. And
Well,
Jerry, I see you trying to get in. It's saying devices not connected.
yeah,
I don't know.
I got to get myself ready for dinner, but going to have sushi. But anyway, so I won't take up too much more of your time here. But here's the thing: I went in 1972, right as Vietnam was winding down. It was still
that
going
had to be
on.
tough.
It was still going on, but I didn't care anything to get out of New Orleans. I really did not want to be there. I mean, I grew up there. I said, I'm done with it. Get me out of here. And at that particular point, when I went in, things were really cheap. I mean, I started off, I made $288 a month. That was the base pay for an E1.
Yep.
And, it didn't look like much because it wasn't. But the amount of stuff you can get cheap in a PX, in the commissary, it was amazing. And as soon as Vietnam ended, prices shot up. It was, in some cases, doubled and more than doubled. And it made it a little bit harder to take advantage of the benefits. So when I ended up finally in reenlistment in 78, people would say, tell me about my benefits. I'm not going to sit there and BS them. It's like, benefits. I'll be honest with you. You don't have very many of them. But, if you enjoy the job you're doing, or there's a job you want to be doing, we can get you a school slot. We'll try to get you a school slot. You want to be assigned somewhere? We'll get you assigned there if we can. Most popular place people wanted to be assigned, you want to guess? Hawaii. They always wanted to be assigned to Hawaii.
My enlistment, I enlisted as an MP to go to Korea.
Yeah.
Talk about random. I was ready for something, and I said, well, I'm going to go to Korea and I'm going to be an MP. It was a good time for a single guy.
Yeah. I had the Pacific short tour when I first went in. And the reason I did that is because I figured anything in the Pacific had to be warmer than the other place was going to be Europe. Everybody ended up going to Germany, but I was guaranteed Pacific. And people tried to talk me out of that, and they said, do you really want to insist on that? You can be sent to Vietnam. So I don't care. I don't like cold. And and they sent me to Thailand. Loved it. Love
Yeah,
it.
I've heard a lot of good things about Thailand. I did 3 years in Germany as well, and
too.
my wife went over with me. She's a Department of the Army civilian. She just actually retired this month.
Yeah.
But we love Germany, and we were in just outside of Frankfurt, so we didn't have a lot of snow. It got cold in the winter, but not as bad as you would think. Not like in the Alps or anything like that.
Well,
But we had a great time, a great 3 years over there.
I was in Stuttgart, and one of the things that the first thing I realized is there was a lot I had to learn. There was always this argument over, is it pronounced Stuttgart or Stuttgart? So I asked one of the German people out there. I said, "Is this pronounced Stuttgart or Stuttgart?" He said, "Stuttgart." I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Did I stutter?" And with that, I'm going to leave you, Sarge. I love your show.
Thanks. I appreciate you participating. It's always great to have people jump in.
I'm glad you're doing these live streams, and I hope to be on here again in the future.
Well, I'm going to try and keep it going.
You should. You really should.
When I first thought about the idea, I had many of my YouTube friends say, "Are you trying to commit YouTube suicide?" Because that's basically what it is. Because you never know who's going to come in here. And there's my brother Outback Outlaw. Thank you so much, brother. He just hit us with a super chat. He's down in Australia. Great guy. As a matter of fact, I was watching him this morning. They were doing Stairway to the Moon, I think, or something like that, where the moon down in Australia on that certain coast, as the moon comes up over the horizon, it makes a stairway in the water. And it's really crazy looking.
I got to see that.
Yeah. I forget what they call it, but if you search it, there's a lot of photos of it out there.
Yeah.
But thanks so much.
Right. It's been fun, and I'd salute you, but you don't salute NCO, so we don't do
exactly.
That. We will catch you on the flip side.
All right. Take care, brother.
You too.
So I'm going to throw the link for the live stream if you want to join into the live stream. And Jerry, I don't know what the issue was. It just said that it wasn't recognizing the devices. So I'm not sure if it's not recognizing your microphone or your camera or both or whatever. I'm not sure. But that's kind of great. And I love getting veterans in here and talking about their experiences and what they did in the military. All right there, Combat Medic. Have a great night. Appreciate you tuning in. Max, your dad met Elvis in Germany. That's awesome. And I can believe that. I can believe that because he was kind of a big deal when he was in Germany. So he probably didn't really want to associate with a lot of people. He was just doing his time. But that's really cool. Oh, saying bye to Angry Cat. All right. I thought you were cutting out on me. All right. So where do we need this to go? Somebody throw some questions up or a topic or whatever. I'll research it on the internet if I have to. We can do something. Some of my funny military stories. I'm just trying to think about some of the. There's always been some crazy stuff. I remember when I went to jump school, Fort Benning, I was already assigned to the 82nd, so I was already wearing an 82nd patch. I had just transitioned from MP into aviation, so I had a set of aviation wings, air crew wings. I also had a set of air assault wings because I went to air assault school when I was stationed at Fort Campbell, and I got my ass smoked while I was at jump school. You really don't want to wear a lot of shit. Plus, I was an E5 when I went to jump school. So you don't want to show up at Fort Benning wearing a bunch of shit on your uniform because they're going to dog you like a just smoke you like a Tipperillo. I tell you. Why the dramatic increase in stolen valor, idiots? You know, I don't know why there's such an increase in it. Actually, I'm starting to see a little bit of a decrease right now. A few years ago, it seemed to be a little bit more prominent, but I don't know. I think it's because the military has received so much support from the citizens. A very humbling experience to me. I mean, it brought a tear to my eye. I came home on my 2-week leave coming back from Iraq in 07. It was like July 07. And of course, we all get off the plane and we're walking through in a line going through the Atlanta airport. And we got a standing ovation by all the people that were in the airport. And I couldn't believe it. It was pretty crazy. I had gone in a 24-hour period from being in the middle of a firefight, standing under a 50 cal firing over my head, to being in the Atlanta airport, didn't have time to take a shower, change my uniform, or any of that shit. And of course, like a dumbass, I get to Atlanta. I go outside the security area. I loop back around to come back into the security area. Now I have to go through screening again. And they put me in one of those puffer machines, one of those explosive detection machines. And I told the guy, I said, not a good idea, because you're going to have all kinds of bells and whistles going off if you put me in there. And the guy was like, yeah, right, blah, 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 sticks me in there. Well, all of the powder from standing, I was passenger front door of a Humvee with a 50 cal firing off a turret. And you get all that unburned powder and it gets on you and it gets all over you. It gets into your uniform, and I didn't get a chance. I basically took a hooker bath with some wet wipes before I went to Kuwait to get on the plane to go to Atlanta. Yeah, and it did. It went off. They had like 43 people standing all around the thing when I came out of it, and I said, I told you, dumbass. But the police were really understanding about it, and they got me on my flight. Actually got me on an early flight. I think they just wanted to get me the hell out of Atlanta airport. A UFO unintentionally shot down by an artillery round in Desert Storm. Really? A UFO? That must have been Iraqi Air Force, because that would be an unknown flying object, because I don't think they were flying south. The damaged saucer was recovered. I'd love to see that. I believe there's something else out there, but I don't know. I'm one of them I got to see it kind of guys. Yeah, James, I agree. A lot of the Vietnam guys, they never got the welcome home they deserved. And, I belong to the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association. We got quite a few Vietnam vets in there. I always welcome them home, thank them for their service. Great bunch of guys. But they got the shit end of the stick just due to the time, And I don't think the political times right now are doing us any favors in the military either. They're changing a lot of things. I'm glad I retired when I did. I've been retired. The 31st of October will be 10 years I've been retired. So, and I do it all again tomorrow. All right, guys, come on. Somebody's got to have some questions. Somebody needs to pop in here. Come on, I'll make you famous on YouTube. And it seems like we're getting enough participation in this where I'm going to probably try keeping it going. Dummy scuds. I did hear about that. Somebody had mentioned that before. I know one thing that they were really good at was making hoax IEDs. And their reasoning for that was they would plant something to where we could see it or our route clearance would see it. That way they could engage us in a small arms attack or some type of an ambush or try to. So they were really good at that. And they are masters at digging a hole in the middle of the street, burying an IED and covering it up so there's no way you could ever tell it was there. All right, looks like Jerry might have it going on. Let's see. All right, Jerry, are you there? Jerry's still working. He's working hard on his technical difficulties. Almost had him. But I hope he gets in there. It'd be great to talk with him. And any of you other guys, here's the link again. I'm going to keep throwing it out there. Okay. What else can we talk about? So Angry Cat was talking about, he was in 72. He was a recruiter. Everybody wanted to be a helicopter pilot. Trust me, Hiram, they pull it off. They melt tires and gravel, and they can match the color of the pavement. You would never know. And how they do it, I don't know. They did it. But lots of melting tires down and making pavement, and it was crazy. Yes, Max, I have seen your Dewitt spoof videos. Where was I going? All right, so let's go back to early 1983, before I went to Bragg. Actually, 82. July 82. I had applied for Warrant Officer Flight School, and Angry Cat mentioned that a lot of guys wanted to go to flight school. I didn't re-enlist for it. I applied for it. I took the flight aptitude selection test, fast test. I scored like a 124, which is super high. And I went to Warrant Officer Flight School. Got there, started Walk D, completed the Walk D. I smashed my hand. You probably can't, you're not going to be able to see it because of the lighting. I had to end up having reconstructive surgery on my right wrist and my thumb. I got my hand smashed during PT. And they gave me a bunch of cortisone shots, told me to, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Well, it was a reoccurring dislocation that kept popping out. So I got rolled back a class into Brown Flight. I was at Orange Flight 8223. Rolled over into Brown Flight 83-1, I think it was. And at the end of it, by the time I got let out of the school for medical, I got my wrist repaired, and there was no way I was going to pass a Class 1 flight physical again, because you still had to have 20/20 vision. Nowadays, that's not it. Yeah, the blended retirement system. And thanks again, Combat Medic. I'm not well versed in that. I fell under the old system, which was good for me. The blended retirement system, I'm not sure how that works, and I don't see how it would be worth it. And yeah, you retired a year after I did, so awesome. Yeah, and I'm known to get injured and continue to push things. I tend to do stupid things like that, but that's my nature. I'm a hard charger all the time. I mean, geez, after I had the surgery on my wrist, I had a pin that went through to hold everything together, had a cast on my hand, and I was out at the motocross track trying to ride my dirt bike with a cast on my hand. That didn't work out too well. Ended up with an infected pin track, and young and stupid. Yeah, the military retirement now, I just don't see that as a lure for anyone to join the military and make a career out of it. One thing that I think while I was stationed over in Germany that I was exposed to was the mandatory service for those that weren't in some type of a technical field or a technical school. They had a mandatory 2-year conscript, if I'm saying that right. So everybody basically did 2 years in the military. I think that would be wonderful for us, but unfortunately, everybody's too entitled. I don't think it would work out too well nowadays. But I think 2 years in the military, it's going to build your character a little bit. It's going to give you some discipline. It's going to give you some structure. Instead of getting out of high school, going into college, and getting a bachelor's degree that gets you virtually nothing anymore. And, bottom of the rung jobs with a bachelor's degree. I don't know. Good evening, Justin. Welcome to the stream. Glad you made it. What else we got going on, guys? Love to get somebody else to pop in here. I'm going to post the link again just because I'm a pain in the ass. Anybody that wants to join the stream, just cut and paste that. And I use StreamYard. And when you join, if your camera's hooked up and your microphone's hooked up, you can adjust those settings. That's like I'm not using my webcam. I'm using my Canon M50 connected to my OBS Studio software, using it as a virtual camera. I've got several different microphones. I've got a desk mic that I'm using. I don't know if you can see it. It's my desk mic. It's a dynamic mic. It's a great microphone going into a little Behringer thing. And then, of course, I've got my other studio mic here that I mainly use on some radio gear I've gotten here. All right, guys, then we need a topic. What else you want to talk about? Because I'm running out of topics here. Anything in the news that's, I don't know, anything crazy going on anywhere that we could talk about? Really love to get some questions in the chat. Oh, Jerry's trying again. Keeping the fingers crossed.
Master, can you hear me?
I got you, Jerry.
Technology's terrible, ain't it?
Well, welcome to the stream. I'm glad you kept at it.
No, just replying to my earlier comment I made, we're struggling really hard over here to keep some of our most technical MOSs in. It's more financially beneficial for a lot of these guys to get out after 8 years, and it's creating a big problem over here.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I can imagine that the civilian sector snatches up the technical guys left and right just because they've got that experience, they've got a work ethic, they've got some discipline.
They have all the credentials and qualifications.
Oh, yeah. And why wouldn't they? I mean, I know guys that got out and took contractor jobs overseas. So, you know, they had already been deployed a couple of times, and they said, why am I doing this for peanuts when I could be making 150, 160 grand for a year? as a contractor, and a lot of the guys did that.
Right now, I mean, you can't blame them.
No, you can't.
But at the end of the day, it's creating a pretty big manpower shortage, and I don't think it's limited only to my component here in the DoD.
No, it's got to be pretty widespread. I'm sure the recruiters are having trouble meeting mission right now. It's just got to be really tough. I mean, they can't even really, they really can't even dangle that college carrot in front of people anymore.
No, and a couple times throughout my career, tuition assistance is quite frequently on the chopping block because it kind of comes in waves. It gets utilized, and then it starts to get underutilized, and then Congress takes another look at it, and then we as senior leaders, um, rightfully so, start pushing it towards the junior guys to start taking those courses, just because we don't want to lose that benefit as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's. I noticed a big change. Just the time that I was in the reserves, and in the guard, and I noticed a change when I managed to get back on active. That things had changed an awful lot, and a lot of the guys, they said, "Oh, look out! Here comes Sergeant G, man. He's old school. Look out!" But it's, I don't know. I will tell you one thing. None of my guys knew to ask why.
Right.
When I told them to do something. I never had a problem with that, but I've got friends of mine, that were privates under me 10 years ago, and now they're the E7 or E8, and they completely understand where I was coming from.
It's kind of funny you mention guys not knowing to ask why, because nowadays your privates ask that all the time. Years ago, when I came in, you just did it, and I can't really blame them. And I've kind of moved to the other side of things, because when you explain to your troops the why, that creates buy-in.
It does nowadays, but like back when we first went in,
Do or die.
Yeah, when he tells you to do something, you do it. And he may not have the time to explain to you why you're doing it. But I was always pretty good about making sure my guys knew what the end game was. And every single one of them knew that I wasn't asking them to do something that I would not be out there doing myself.
Right.
And I took pride in doing that. And, when my guys, if I lost somebody for, say they were going home for their mid-tour, it didn't matter. If he was a driver, I'd hop in a driver's seat as a platoon sergeant. Didn't bother me. If he was a gunner on a turret, guess where my ass was? I was up in the turret, because I had no problem doing that. And if we needed to fill a seat, I would go fill the seat, regardless of what the seat was. They still looked to me as being in charge of the whatever it was, but still, they knew I wasn't afraid to get in there and do exactly what they were doing day in and day out. And I did almost every day. I'd be out with one of my squads one way or another. So I think the soldiers today, I don't think that the leaders actually, I don't know, this is hard to say, the why questioning. I don't know if it's maybe just a lack of confidence in the leaders, or they just don't know their leaders well enough to understand if he tells you to do something, you go do it. Does that make sense?
And there's that side of it. I think part of it is, not maybe from a school standpoint, but the younger generation is just a lot more educated.
Yes.
Some through just having the answers at their fingertips on their little devices all the time. They're not left to wonder. But I think mainly that's what it is.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, they and I even dealt with a lot of that. Even I mean, before I retired, even my last 4 or 5 years, I kind of had to adapt a little bit to a more knowledgeable, more rounded. They had a little more life experience. Most of them were a little bit older than the 17, 18-year-olds back when I joined. I think there were a lot of them were early 20s up to say 24, 25. They must not know a lot because they were joining the military, but I mean, they had good motivation to be doing it. A lot of them. One thing I'll and I tell everybody this, and I'm still in contact with some of the guys from some of my deployments and guys that I served with that are still in and getting ready to retire. That were my junior enlisted or my team leaders or squad leaders or whatever. And now I completely forgot where the frig I was going with that. But they see it from a different view once they reach those ranks. Once they get to that position, they understand why things were done the way they were.
Well, let me change subjects on you just a little bit here.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and just full disclosure, Jerry Hobbs is not my real name, and I do not have social media. I am still active duty, but one of the things I'd like to just kind of bring up is the whole Lieutenant Colonel Scheller incident.
Sure.
I know there's nothing but a lot of extremes in the news today. It's far left or far right. There's not really any kind of in between. And when it comes to Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, the far right really likes to jump on the idea that, possibly a war hero and a decorated Marine or soldier is getting barbecued at the stake. But what I would offer up is, right, wrong, or indifferent, just my personal opinion, the man was in the wrong. A battalion level commander does not have the same essay as far as what's going on the ground and what the reality is of a given situation as a bunch of 4-star generals. He could have done a lot of things. He could have phoned the commandant directly and told the commandant, his gripes, his problems, and the conversation very well could have gone down the road of, Lieutenant Colonel, this is what I did about the situation. This is the discussions that were had. This is the recommendations I made. And basically, you need to stay in your lane. And he probably would have been made to retire at 20 years, but more or less, he would have been overall okay. Going on the outside like that is just not something you do, and it threatens the good order of discipline of the unit. And it kind of makes, honestly, the Marine Corps, it's kind of a black eye for us in the eyes of the public. And it just, the guy is going to get hooked up, and he is currently getting hooked up, but he should not have done that. And I don't understand what it is about. It seems we have this trend of guys that get, whether it's officer or enlisted, they get to 15 to about 17 years, and all of a sudden just want to punt their careers in the woods. And I don't understand it.
And I'm in total agreement with you. When it first came out and everybody was like, "Oh, this guy's a hero. He's bringing this to light." I was like, "You got to be shitting me." On a Facebook video, I was like, "What type?" Now this guy is a battalion commander of a training battalion, what type of role
SOI
model,
East.
what type of role model is he as a battalion commander to come out and criticize senior leadership, especially at that level, when he has no idea what's going on at that level? And I think I made it pretty much clear in the videos I did on it. I was trying to figure out where the hell he was coming from. And I looked at his bio that was on the USMC training, which is of course gone now. They took that down as soon as he was relieved.
Right.
But I was looking through his bio, and it was very carefully worded with some of his assignments and what he had done. And the one thing that kind of glared out at me, and I don't know, but he was never like a frontline leader. He was like an XO in a company, and he was in charge of fire support. He was at a headquarters company, and I'm assuming in the Marine Corps that's the same as it is for the Army. That's your support company, your beans and bullets kind of people.
Right.
Kind of stuff. He was, a company commander there. Then he was back in the schoolhouse. He did a bunch of schoolhouse time. Then he was an individual augmentee on a deployment, and I guess he was an infantry subject matter expert for a route clearance team for the 101st Airborne. Came back from that and got his master's degree, and then he ended up back in the schoolhouse again. So I don't know if it's sour grapes that he never got that frontline company, infantry company commander, hoo-ha, let's deploy kind of thing, or what. It just seems like he was always in that support role as an infantry officer and never the guy out front. Am I way off base with that, or?
No, I don't think so. The only thing I would offer up is, the Marine Corps is very small, especially when you start to get, into the field grade officer and the senior staff NCO ranks. And I don't personally know him, but I have talked to some Marines on the enlisted side that at one point or another served underneath him, and he was a well-respected and liked officer. I don't know if it was a stress thing. I don't know if it's nobody knows what you got going on, in your personal life. But it just seems to me that I don't understand what it is about guys, both officer and enlisted, get just slightly above 15 years and all of a sudden become the conscientious types on social media. And talking with some people, both officer and enlisted within my command, one of the most senior 06s said to me, basically, this is exactly what he said. He goes, "Take this how you want it. A severe lack of humility." And I tend to agree because, again, I don't know how a battalion level officer seems to think he has the same grasp on a situation that a 4-star general does.
Oh, exactly. And that was my biggest point. It was laughable that he wanted to charge McKenzie with dereliction of duty. I was like, are you shitting me? Who does this training battalion commander think he is? Now, and a lot of people, and one of the things, when you think about these guys at the very top, these guys wearing all the stars, they're not the ones that are calling the shots anyway. They
make the recommendations.
That's it. They make a recommendation to the commander-in-chief and his staff. They make that recommendation, and whatever they decide to do, these poor guys are the ones that have to try and implement it. Right, wrong, indifferent, or a screwed up mess as the Afghanistan withdrawal was, they had to try and implement the commander-in-chief's intent for that mission. they can't disobey an order.
Right. And I got to think about it here a little bit, because between Iraq and Afghanistan, I mean, I can remember the first one and the last one, but the middle kind of blends together. I think uh, I've been to Afghanistan 3 times. Most recently was I left in 2020, actually. Um, and, I was there for the drawdown the first time we were leaving between 2012 and uh, 2014. And it just kind of, the civilian population never really ceases to amaze me. The thing blew up in the news, and people was asking me about it, and I'm trying not to be a jerk when I answer some of the friends of the family's questions and things like that. But one of the questions I had for them was, "Why is this news now?" Um, we've been in Afghanistan since 2001. All of a sudden, it's news now. Be honest with you, it kind of ticked me off a little bit. And I'll extend an olive branch to the current administration right now. There was never any kind of scenario where this wasn't going to end bad when we left, and basically whoever was sitting in the White House was going to get, the big finger pointed at them, going, this is all the things you messed up.
Oh,
And the other thing I would add to that is the perceived rapid takeover by the Taliban. There wasn't no rapid takeover. That was very gradual over the last couple of years, and they were just sitting and waiting.
well, yeah. As we put now, I've never been to Afghanistan, so I really can't speak a lot about it. However, I know, as a matter of fact, I retired. My unit was getting ready to go to Afghanistan. I could have either gone or not, and I chose to retire because I was getting too freaking old to go over there and hump a pack. But the missions were very similar between Iraq and Afghanistan as far as being an MP at the time. We were training Iraqi police, as my unit did when they went over. They were training Afghani police. And the requirements that were placed on the units that had boots on the ground that were out there trying to teach these guys, the massive amounts of paperwork and shit that you had to, they're certified to do this. The Iraqis used to go along to get along. They would come out and put forth an effort during the training so they'd get a check in the box. We'd send that up, and we would know damn well that the minute we're not there, they're not doing it.
Right.
And I'm thinking it's pretty much the same thing in Afghanistan. So while they probably put on a big show when you're there watching them train, the minute they're left to their own devices, they're going to crumble.
The whole crumble part was, extremely accurate. But to be honest with you, I'd much rather deal with the Iraqi army than Afghan army or Afghan border patrol, because they were on a whole nother level. They were high all the time. And the ones that were joining the service, I'm not saying they're altogether bad people, but they were the undesirables out of the villages. So you're already dealing with, at best, tier 3 personnel. It wasn't uncommon for me to be sitting in the COC. I'm a fires guy by trade, Joint Terminal Attack Controller, and a couple other things, but just to hear Sergeant of the Guard, call the watch officer and, "Hey, this is post 4. My Afghan counterpart is so high he can't even stand up," or "He left his weapon here and kind of wandered off into the desert." And it's, opium and poppy's a big thing over there in Afghanistan, but most of the troops and the civilian populace, they smoke hashish. And you would be on patrol, and as soon as you came to a tactical halt or went to a village somewhere, they light up on patrol. Literally, they are high all the time, and they don't see a problem with that, and they don't understand how it affects their ability to, in a firefight. It doesn't click with them. They just don't understand it.
Well, the way I describe it is like trying to herd cats. And that's how it was with the Iraqis too. But the Iraqis, we had some really good Iraqi police. We had some that were proactive. They would actually go out and do patrols. But my platoon, we were in charge my last 06, 07, and this was during the Baghdad push where everybody pushed up to Mosul where I was.
Right. I was in Ramadi in 06.
Yep. It was a freaking shit show with the push. And my platoon was in charge of the emergency response battalions, which were police battalions. There was maybe 50 guys per. And some of them were really great. I mean, I had no problem going out with them. And toward the end of our tour over there, it got to the point where we had an ODA operating off our fob, and they couldn't go out and do anything unless they took Iraqi police, and the Iraqi police wouldn't go with them unless they brought us with them. So,
right.
So it turned into as a matter of fact, and we're talking 06, 07, I took a Sony video camera, and I had a little cigarette camera that I put on my helmet. Now, this is way before GoPros.
Right, and you probably spent a pretty penny for that too.
Oh, I did. I put it all together, and I got about a 20-minute video of an HIV or an HV, high value target,
right,
HVT, that we were going after, and everything went wrong, and it's hilarious. The captain from the ODA spoke fluent Arabic. He's screaming at him in English, "Get the F in there, Rob." He's going off. I'm trying not to laugh at the whole thing if it wasn't so serious, but they had to make entry, and they're kicking on a hollow door. And after like the third kick, you see the door go open and the door come back. And then everybody's screaming at them. They go in the front door. There's like 3 dudes in this front room. 2 of the SF guys grab them. And then all the Iraqis go all the way to the back of the house. Go right by the stairs, go right by open doors, open rooms. They all just go straight to the back of the house. I'm like, what in the frick is this shit show? But I'll have to post that on my channel. I'll do a thing on that. I'll have to dig the video out. I think we're past the statute of limitations on anything they can do to me.
It kind of cracks me up. I'd actually forgotten how flimsy some of them Iraqi doors could be. You kick it and it just fold in around your foot and stay right there.
Well, it started off when they pulled up. They were going to, they got the big metal gates. They were going to crash the gate with a Humvee. Well, they crashed the gate, but there was a car parked on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't work out too well. So we had to basically run over the top of the Humvee and jump through this V crack in the gate where they smashed it in. It was just, but it's like herding cats. It really was. And General McKenzie really made a good point during his testimony to the House. That 4.5 hours worth of testimony that I listened to, and he came straight out and said it. He said, I don't know what the disconnect is. I don't know why the E5 on the ground knows what's going on and I don't. And he said, that's my fault, that I don't understand what's going on the ground.
General McKenzie was the realest person over there. He had been over there not General McKenzie. General Miller turned over with General McKenzie right before it closed out. General Miller had been there for about 3 years. He was the current RS 4-star out there. The last time I was there between 2019 and 2020. And you talk about people trying to put spot or positive spins on things like that. General Miller was the realest person out there about the situation. He didn't try to fairy dust anything. I would call in weekly and just listen in on the. I don't think they called it a battle update brief, but basically, this is what's going on.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I'm trying not to say anything, bus classification levels or anything like that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I
you talk
understand.
about, this is the way things have been for the last 20 years. This is how these people act. This is their culture. And we're not going to get them to do, X, Y, and Z
No.
in the next couple months, what we haven't been able to get them to do in the last 20 years.
Exactly.
Um,
And that all rolls back to like cooking the books, like I was talking about, where we had all these Excel spreadsheets, like 30 pages of it. And it had all the training requirements and all the training tasks that we had to train them up. We even had
Right.
we had civilian contract police assigned to us to do the training.
we
which made
call
us-
them law
IPLO.
enforcement professionals, LEPs.
Yeah. Yeah, that we called them IPLOs, International Police Liaison Officers, and they were the ones that were supposed to be conducting the training. And it's not part of their culture. Community policing is not something that the Iraqis, and I'm sure the Afghans, they have no idea about, none
Right.
whatsoever. That is a complete and utter foreign thing to them.
100%.
They never go to the police.
You take it to the village elder, and they make a decision on the thing, and that's what's worked for them for hundreds of years.
Yeah, exactly.
So why change?
Exactly. And like I said, they put forth a good effort to show like they were trying to do it. But once you leave, it's like, the Americans are full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about. That's not the way we do things.
Right.
No doubt in my mind. And I had many of my interpreters. As a matter of fact, 3 or 4 of my interpreters are here in the U.S. now. One of them I was very close with. He was a good kid. Really good kid. He owns a couple of CrossFit gyms in Florida now. He's done really well for himself. I've got another one who does something within the government now, and I think he was going to work for the UN. And these guys were all Kurdish anyway, so they were a little bit above what the normal guys were. But they're all here in the States now and doing really well. And they even told me, they said, yeah, the minute you leave, these guys are like, yeah, stupid Americans. They don't know what the frig they're talking about. And I'm like, I'm sure they are, but we still have to go out here and do this.
Oh, yeah. Massart, thanks for having me on. I got to bounce out.
Jerry, thanks. I appreciate it. I know it's not your real name. I'll call you Jerry anyway. Thanks for joining in. I really enjoyed our chat. I'm getting some participation. I'm going to try and keep this rolling along. I haven't committed YouTube suicide yet. So we haven't had any of those type of people jump in here and make things crazy. But I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to come on here and chat. Some great information I got from you. I really enjoyed it.
Hoorah.
All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to close it up. About an hour and 23 minutes. That's pretty good. Had some great participation. I love getting the veterans in here. Jerry, he's on active duty. It was great to hear his point of view on the Scheller thing. And it's good to get fresh stuff. Like I said, I'm getting stale. 10 years retired. It's hard for me to keep up with everything that's going on nowadays. But I really appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate all the super chats. Thanks again, guys. And we'll see if we can't continue on with this, and we'll schedule another one for next Saturday, and we'll see where it goes. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Hit the bell to get notifications of any new uploads or any of that good stuff. If you're out riding on your bike, out there on twos, shiny side up, rubber side down. Hey, everybody have a great evening. Thanks for tuning in.